What Chaos factions haven't we done yet? Let's see.
I can tell you. Of course, one is difficult to do because the codex is already out.
Yeah, might be impossible to talk about since you've not gotten a Chaos Space Marine Codex.
Wait, I know why Darren has gotten information about what codices I have, but what about you, Whatya?
Look, Darren and I have been hanging out and watching some of your videos.
Yeah, not a lot, but some. Whatya has mostly been wanting to watch your Death Watch related videos, and there's a lot of them.
Honestly, and unreasonable amount of them. Some of them are... David, are you okay?
I am now, because Death Watch have been absolutely ruling lately, but I need Chaos factions I've not done. From my memory, there's only 2, including the one arguably Xenos Chaos faction, right? Chaos Space Marines, which I don't have the codex for, and Death Guard, right?
Yeah, if I remember correctly, though, I'll point out that your memory is directly tied to my memory, so...
Good point, but I'm certain I've not done the Death Guard, so let's talk about them. Death Guard, formerly known as Dusk Raiders, I did a bit of a touch on them when talking about Huron Fall, so I won't talk about their history, despite the fact they probably are the second most tragic story of any Chaos faction. So, every round, the army rule improves, but we need to talk about this army rule in order to talk about the index detachment. So, what's this rule? Nurgle's Gift. This army rule reaches out 3, 6, or 9 inches out, depending on if it's the first, second, or third round and beyond. And any enemy unit within the number of inches of that unit with this army rule ability gets a negative to toughness. Now, how is this army rule? It can be at the exact same time forgettable and absolutely broken. Knight's Leaks have them losing 1 toughness already, and if this army is getting this rule without changes, that's another 1 loss to their toughness. My Questoris Knights go from right now a 12 to when both codexes release 10 toughness. Now, there's a reason why this army rule is looked at with more venom than my Knights and Custodes. Mostly because in my hands, my armies are a joke, I have terrible luck, but let's look at their detachment, which makes it venomous. Plague Company is the index, with the Flyblown Host being the Christmas one, which we won't go into, despite the fact you can access it without the codex, but Wahapedia allows that too, so use that website. Spread the Sickness. When you declare battle formations, essentially when you tell your opponent who you've brought and what you've got, you'll choose an aura, which ties into the army rule. This new aura will stack on top of what the Nurgle's Gift will give. Skullsquirm Blight worsens the opponent's ballistics and weapon skill by 1. Rattlejoint Ague will worsen the save characteristic by 1. I assume this only applies to armor saves, not invulnerability saves. And Scabrous Soul Rot worsens the objective control of enemies by 1 to a minimum of 1. All of these have benefits, but the OC one might be the least useful, unless against a horde army. They tend not to have great saves or hit rates, so the OC might be best, but given they tend to have an OC of 1, in most cases, with 20 models, this can't be reduced any further. Now, this detachment rule does one more thing on top of any one of these previous things. it gives all Death Guard units sticky objective. This is always good, though this can be a bit of a double-edged sword in the hands of Death Guard because of how slow Death Guard units tend to be, though this detachment really does benefit from the sticky objective thing. It's basically built around it entirely. But let's go to enhancements. 10 points, the droning, it's an aura. Every failed battle shock test an enemy makes within contagion range, they roll a d6. On a 2 to 5, it makes them take 1 mortal wound, while a 6 makes them take a d3 mortal wounds. Good old guaranteed damage is always nice. 15 points, deadly pathogen. Add 1 to the strength and attack characteristics of the bearer's melee weapons. If you control the objective marker you're on, you get an extra 1 to those numbers too. Getting close, it'll be hard to do with Death Guard, but it's worth the cost, really. 20 points now, Living Plague. Add an extra 3 inches to the range of this model's aura abilities. All of them, including Nurgle's gifts and any other abilities they may have. This can really benefit, but I don't know how many of the Death Guard characters have auras. Let's look. Chaos Lords, Daemon Princes, and probably a few others that this would apply to. Honestly worth it. And Shamble Rot for 25 points. It subtracts 2 from the charges that would target this bearer's unit. That's honestly sort of contradicts other things this army does, but I can see various mixes actually being well done. Some wanting close range, others wanting long range, so not bad. So how about stratagems then? Ferric Blight for 1 point can be used on your own shooting or fight phase, on a unit that has not yet been selected to shoot or fight. This improves the armor penetration by 1, and if your target is within the contagion range of an infected objective, the sticky objective from earlier, a critical wound increases the armor penetration by 2 instead. This has a lot of if X then Y sort of things. I've seen this help a DG player, but it's a lot just for this one strat. Sanguous Flux is also 1 point, usable during the fight phase on a unit that hasn't been chosen to fight. Gives them sustained hits, and if the objective you're on is infected, you get a 2 in that sustained hits. Honestly, sustained hits are always nice. Disgustingly Resilient is 2 points cost to use. During the fight phase, just after an enemy unit has selected its target, usable on a unit that has been chosen to get slapped by 1 or more. Reduce the damage of said enemy by 1. Now, it doesn't say to a minimum of 1, but it's assumed that it is to a minimum of 1 in all cases, unless it specifically says reduces damage characteristic to 0, which some do. Gifts of Decay cost 1 point, and is usable during your own command phase, and this one heals said unit used on by a d3 normally, or just straight up 3 wounds if they're within contagion range of a sticky point. Boil Blight is usable during your own shooting phase on any Death Guard unit, and an enemy within contagion range of said unit. This gives your own DG the heavy and the ignores cover abilities, but only against that one enemy within contagion range. Meh. Cloud of Flies is the last one, and it's usable during your opponent's shooting phase, just after your enemy has selected its targets on said targeted unit. Now, I'm willing to bet you're thinking this is going to be another Armor of Contempt, right? Well, it's not. It's better. This will give the unit it's used on the stealth ability. Add the contagion abilities too. This could be busted. -2 from hitting is nice if both effects are in place. Now, looking over all this army feels like a Swiss Army knife. And to be completely honest, I like that. Somehow the army best known for ignoring damage can't do that as well, but it can kill and stop from getting killed in multiple different ways, not by buffing themselves, but debuffing you. I'm actually kind of impressed with myself now. I never won a game against these guys. I've only ever won a single game legitimately, and even then arguable, but I got close against one of our local Death Guard players. I'll have to talk to him about that and figure out what I could do better. But I need to plan a 40k list for next month, so shove off.